everybody, welcome to We Chef. I'm Laura, so happy to have you here with me today. Today we are going to make chocolate souffles. I like this chocolate souffle recipe because it's pretty simple, low amount of ingredients, and I also really like it because it teaches folding. Folding seems to be an elusive technique to a lot of people, so we're going to work on folding today. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do before we start this recipe is to get started in this recipe, I should say, is to get our chocolate melting. So I have a really nice 64% chocolate melting in this bowl. This is called a double boiler. So I have a pot with about 1.5 inches of water in it, and it is creating a nice stream of steam. I don't have it, it's like a good solid simmer. It's not like a crazy rolling boil. We don't want it to be too hot. That's not good for our chocolate. So then I have my 5 ounces of chocolate in this bowl, and that's gonna sit on top of that steam to melt. This is the best, safest way to melt our chocolate. So we have our chocolate melting here and it's melted, so we'll get back to that in a second. The next thing we need to do is we need to prepare our baking molds. So I have these nice 10-ounce ramekins, and what I'm going to do with them is brush them with some butter. So this is nice soft butter that I took out of my refrigerator when I got here this morning and has been sitting out, so it's nice and easy to brush everywhere in my mold. So after I brush and I get everything covered, I'm actually gonna make sure that all my brush strokes are actually going upwards. That kind of gives our souffle kind of a little roadmap of the direction it wants to go, right? Because we want our souffle to rise. So by doing those brush strokes up, it kind of gives it a nice roadmap. Now, on top of the butter, to keep our souffle from sticking to our mold, we're gonna add some sugar. So I am going to pour a little cup of sugar into this ramekin. Now, I'm going to take this, I'm gonna hold it over my other ramekin, and I am going to twirl it around, kind of like a Ferris wheel action. And then I'm gonna flip it over, I can give it a little baby tap, and so then it's nicely fully covered with sugar and butter, okay? So then I'm gonna do the next one, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So I make sure the bottom's covered, then I put it on its side and twist it around, give it a nice little tap. Now this final one is going to go back into my main sugar source, okay? So I have 3, I would say this recipe makes 3 to 4. Kind of depends on how big you want your souffles to be, but 3 to 4 will be good. So I have all my ramekins ready, and I have my chocolate melted, and we're ready for the next step. The next thing we need to do is we need to prepare our eggs. This recipe calls for 3 egg yolks and 5 egg whites. I've already have 1 yolk and 3 whites in my bowls here, but I want to show you 2 different ways of separating the yolks from the whites. Some easier for kids than others. So I'm going to take my egg, I'm going to hit it firmly against the side of the table, and then I'm gently going to crack the entire egg into this bowl. Okay, so the whole egg's in there. Then I'm gonna take my fingers, kind of like a net. We're gonna go fishing for that yolk. And we're gonna get as much of that egg white off of here. You can kind of go back and forth a little bit and pull in some of that white. And then we're gonna put that egg yolk in here, into our bowl with our other yolk, okay? So, and then that was our 4th egg and white. So the next way we're gonna do it, so that is our fishing method. It's a lot easier for a lot of kids, but I'll show you the harder method, and that method is a little bit, you get your hands all messy. This one keeps you a little bit cleaner. So again, I want a good firm crack in my egg. I'm going to put my thumbs into the crack, and I'm going to peel off, essentially, the top of the egg. So then I'm gonna pass my yolk back and forth, but carefully between the 2 shells until the egg white falls into the bowl. Then I'm going to put my 5th egg white into that bowl. So I have 3 yolks, 5 whites. whatever method you can get there, okay? I have my 5 egg whites in my mixing bowl. It has my whisk attachment on it, and I'm gonna give it a little pinch of salt. Okay, so we're gonna hope that this will stay focused. I'm trying my hardest here. So we're gonna give this a little whisk. Let's hope if I lift this up. We're gonna give this a whisk, and I will show you the point where it is done. So we are gonna be adding 1/3 of a cup of sugar to this. If we add it too soon, it's gonna take a long time for us to mix this up. So we're gonna make sure we give it enough time mixing before we start adding our sugar. We want it to be really nice and frothy before we start adding our sugar. No peaks yet though, or maybe just really soft, gentle peaks. So I'm just starting to see, I can just start seeing the trail of, a pattern trail of the whisk as it moves through the egg white. So now I'm gonna start slowly adding the sugar. So I just add a little sugar, I let it mix. A little bit more sugar, let it mix. We don't want to add it all at one time. It will be a little too overwhelming for our egg whites. So you can see them, they're starting to get nice and fluffy. They look a little bit like shaving cream. And again, just adding the sugar. I've added this in like 5 additions. So you can see how nice and firm those egg whites are now. They're nice and shiny. Let me show you those. Okay, so we have a nice, shiny, firm egg white now. I now have everything I need to finally make my souffle. I have my egg whites mixed with the sugar, so that has made a meringue. I have my egg yolks, and I have my melted chocolate. Now the last thing I need to do is turn on my oven. That would be super helpful in baking my souffle. So the first thing I need to do is to my melted chocolate, which is still hot. Maybe not like it's not hot, but it's still warm, which will be helpful. We don't want it to be too cold. I did just take it off of my double boiler, because if it's too cold and we add these egg yolks, it's just gonna seize up and become too hard. So I'm gonna add my egg yolks, and I'm gonna scrape all those out of there, not just pouring them in and hoping, being happy that enough fall in there. I'm really giving it a good scrape. And I'm gonna mix those egg yolks in. And you're gonna see the consistency of the chocolate is gonna change. It's gonna get thick. Okay, we really wanna make sure that those are well mixed in. So, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to take a nice, super huge spatula full, maybe even a tiny bit more, of our egg whites. Now, we have this thick chocolate that we want to mix with this nice, light and fluffy meringue. And they're 2 really different consistencies, and that's really hard to get those 2 things together with those very consistencies. So we are going to add this nice big scoop of meringue in here, and we're just gonna mix this in. I'm mixing, I'm not worried about maintaining air. I'm giving this a good mix, but see how it has lightened it up? So at this point, I'm not worried about air. I'm giving this a good mix. Let me see if you can see that. And it's lightened it up, okay? And it's brought these 2 consistencies closer together. So now when I go to fold the rest of my egg white in here, so now I'm gonna put the rest of that meringue in here. So now when I go to fold this in, it's gonna come together a lot more easily. So when I fold, I like to take my spatula. I go down the middle, I scrape up the side and turn the bowl. So with my right hand, I'm going down the middle and scraping up the side, and my left hand, whenever the spatula gets to the side, it's turning the bowl. And I'm gonna do this until it all comes together. And every now and then I'm just gonna take a good swipe around the side and make sure nothing's hiding underneath there. So I'm pretty happy with that. That did not take too long. See this nice, beautiful, fluffy, chocolatey goodness that I have here? And I actually think I was off on, I think this is gonna make a little bit more than 3. My bad. I did a really good job folding. So this is gonna make more than 3. Let's call it actually 6. I don't know what I was thinking when I started this recipe. Yeah, definitely 5 or 6. I'm gonna get some more molds prepared. But in the meantime, these guys are gonna go immediately into the oven. We worked hard to keep that mixture light and fluffy, and the longer it sits, the more air we lose. So we immediately want to put these guys into our 375-degree oven and get those baking. So I'm gonna take my chocolate souffle out of the oven now. So you can see it's puffed up a nice amount. I gotta hold. Okay, it's puffed up a nice amount. To finish it off, I am going to dust it with a little powdered sugar. So I have some powdered sugar in a strainer, and I'm just gonna give it a nice dusting. Now, for kids, I would absolutely put, you need your souffle on a plate, because this cup is very hot. So you want them touching the plate when they're eating it, not the ramekins. So when this is served to children, and children, when you serve this, you guys need to be really careful because this ramekin is straight out of the oven and it's quite hot. So I ended up getting 5 souffles from this recipe. Now, when I make this with my students in class, it's basically a 3 souffle per this recipe. Kids like to overfold this mixture. It's just hard. We start folding and it's just one of those repetitive things that we keep going and we keep going. And if you don't quite have the folding technique down correctly, you tend to lose a little more air. Totally normal. Folding is one of those things that really comes with practice and time. So maybe let's go with 4 is a general number you're gonna get for this recipe, okay? My souffle is already collapsing because that's what happens with souffles. So when you go to the restaurant and you order souffle, it is brought out to you immediately because very quickly it starts to collapse. Again, you can get the recipe for this chocolate souffle on my website at www.wechefchicago.com. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you enjoy your chocolate souffles, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.